they could continue their negotiations on the full-year funding bills. But this is something Democrats have spoken passionately about and acted upon many times in the past. We've recounted here every day. 13 different occasions in the Biden administration, they passed continuing resolutions. They did it most recently in March of this year when Chuck Schumer, 10 Senate Democrats, including the leader, Schumer, voted for the CR and told us how important that was. The CR that's on the table right now and has been sitting there for 45 days is nearly identical to the one that they voted on in March. But shockingly, this is the big thing. In addition to their refusal to support the CR and reopen the government, the Democrats have had the audacity to also demand something new. They demanded $1.5 trillion with a T in new spending obligations in exchange for the simple funding resolution. They filed on paper in the Senate record back in September, and it still sits there as their counterproposal. They would spend $1.5 trillion of your taxpayer funds. Included in that is nearly $200 billion of taxpayer funds that they want to use to restore free health benefits to illegal aliens. They want to spend billions in wasteful left-wing spending projects in foreign countries on things like LGBTQ plus awareness in the Horn of Africa, all sorts of things. I could give you a long list, and we've said it here before. They want to spend $500 million to prop up left-leaning news organizations. And shockingly, in that same proposal, as their ransom for reopening the government, they want to cut $50 billion from the Rural Hospital Fund that the Republicans just got signed into law on July 4th. That is the bill that they filed that shut down the government. And every American can see that for themselves. So their claim about Republicans being responsible is laughable. Let me go to the third one. False claim number 3, Democrats are fighting for health care. You've heard this over and over and over. Let me say something very simply about this false claim. It is the Democrats who created Obamacare. It is the Democrats who did that without any Republican votes. It's the Democrats who, by extension, have cost the American taxpayers and people who have health insurance have made their costs skyrocket. It is their policies that made that happen. And so instead of reforming it, the Democrats don't reform Obamacare. They want to subsidize it. They want to spend more taxpayer dollars. That, by the way, goes mostly to insurance companies, which makes the cost rise further. That's the Democrats' plan. When they passed Obamacare in 2010, they called it the Affordable Care Act. We know the truth is exactly the opposite. By some estimates, premiums have risen 60% in many categories since they passed that bill into law. Now, the fact is the opposite. Republicans are the ones fighting to save health care. Why? It's not just talking points to us. We do this. We have ideas, and we have already implemented ideas and measures to reduce costs, increase access and quality, and eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. Now, why do we say it's not just a talking point? Why do we say the Republican Party is the only one advancing common sense reform solutions? Because we've proven it. We did that in the big, beautiful bill, the Working Families Tax Cut. We took a look at Medicaid, and we took on that challenge. We took action to reduce fraud, waste, and abuse in Medicaid. We got able-bodied young men without dependents off the program. We got illegal aliens off the program, and we saved $185 billion just to start. We got millions of ineligible enrollees off the program, and it preserved it. It strengthened Medicaid for the people who rely upon it, which is the elderly, disabled, young pregnant women, as we always use as an example. No, it's not about health care. That is a false claim, and everybody knows it. Everyone in America, and certainly everybody in this room, understands that this is about something else. What this is about fear. The Schumer shutdown was never about health care. That's a distraction. It's a red herring, as we used to say in debate club. Okay, this is about fear. And what is the fear? The resolution on the COVID-era Obamacare subsidy issue was always going to be slated for debate in October, November, and December. Everybody knows that, and every Democrat knows that. It's an issue that's too complex to be solved on a short-term funding measure like a CR. They know that very well. This is about fear. Everybody in the country is watching the elections that will happen tomorrow. You got big elections in New Jersey and Virginia, the governor's races and attorney general's races, et cetera. But all the attention is focused primarily on New York City. Why? Because the fear. The fear that Mamdani and all that he represents will be risen to power, that he'll be elected the mayor of America's largest city, the once cradle of capitalism, that we're going to have a Marxist, a communist running the largest city. Now this terrifies the establishment old guard Democrats in Washington. And the leaders of both chambers are among those most terrified. They're both from New York. Leader Hakeem Jeffries is the Democrat in the House, and Leader Schumer in the Senate. They're both from New York, and they're terrified. You've watched their actions carefully. Many of you have not reported on it enough. Poor Hakeem Jeffries had to ultimately, finally, he was forced to endorse Mamdani. And he's terrified that he now owns the results of that. Chuck Schumer's been dancing around the issue, but he knows he's darned if he does, darned if he doesn't. They're both terrified, and so that is the fear. This is a fact, and you should print it this way. The Schumer and Jeffries and their colleagues fear political retribution from the far-left activists in their party more than they fear the consequences of keeping the government closed for weeks on end. They fear that personally for their own political future, and they care more about that than they care about SNAP benefits flowing to hungry families, about air traffic controllers being paid so they can keep the skies safe, Border Patrol troops, and all the rest. It pales in comparison, and this is a simple summary that is a simple fact. It is extremism on the left that is the direct cause of American suffering right now. One more fact. The obviously false claim number 4 this morning is that Republicans are responsible for all this pain. It's just a nonsensical statement. It's a nonsensical statement because the fact is very clear. This is about math. Republicans need at least 7 Democrats to join us. We only have 53 Republicans in the Senate. It takes 60 votes to reopen the government in the Senate. The House did its job September 19th. We're waiting on the Senate to get this done. Leader John Thune and the Republicans have bent over backwards. They've done everything they can. You saw his frustration and his anger boil up on the floor at the end of last week. A normally calm, pretty steady leader, very steady leader. We're all angry about this because we're sick of what they're doing. They're using the American people as pawns, as leverage, and that is the word that so many of them have used. We could name senator after senator, House member after House member, from the leadership ranks all the way down to rank and file on the Democrat side. They have admitted openly they're using the American people as leverage in this political game. They're motivated out of fear. They want to show a fight to the radical left so they don't lose their political seats, and they're willing to make the American people suffer for it. That is the fact. This is about math. Republicans have to have at least 7 Democrats. We need 5 more. 5 more moderate, centrist, common sense people who care more about the constituents they serve and the country that they supposedly serve than their own political futures and the retribution they'll receive from the Marxist, Mamdani, communist left in the party if they do the right thing here. I wish these weren't the facts. I take no pleasure in telling you this. It is disgusting to us. But there's no other way to candy coat this, to make it any prettier than it is. So we're now entering the 5th week of this Democrat shutdown, and it's for one reason. Democrats made a deliberate choice to keep the government closed. The shutdown will only end when those same Democrats make a deliberate choice to open it. The entire country is calling and waiting on just 5 more Senate Democrats to come to their senses and do the right thing. We are pleading with them to do so. This is not a game. The solution is sitting right in front of them. Pass the clean CR, end this madness, and open the government. You'll hear next from our majority leader in the House, Representative Steve Scalise.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Democrats continue to impose suffering on the American people, and by the way, that's their term, they've continued to talk about real suffering that they know they're causing. Again, they say to get leverage over what they still can't articulate. But as Democrats continue to impose this suffering, their attempts to mislead the American people are working overtime. The Speaker laid out a number of those statements that Democrats have made over and over again to try to mislead the American people. And it doesn't just end there. Over the weekend, Chuck Schumer tweeted out, quote, "Republicans have done everything in their power to raise your health care costs, and kill SNAP for millions of hungry Americans. Now, Chuck Schumer knows good and well what he said there is not only misleading, it's patently false. I tried to give it Pinocchio awards, but I don't want to associate the character Pinocchio with Chuck Schumer in that statement. Let's start with the first half of what he said there. Raising health care costs. Who is the party that's done that? The health care law of the land, and not sure if Chuck Schumer's been updated on the law, but Obamacare is the law of the land in health care. And we can all go look at the votes going back the last 10 years. It's been partisan votes all the way through for Obamacare. They called it, as the speaker said, they named it the Affordable Care Act. It's been anything but. Costs for families are up over 80% in their premiums because of Obamacare. And what have they tried to do over and over again? They've tried to mask the cost. They haven't tried to work with Republicans to fix it. They've tried to mask the cost. Hundreds of billions of dollars of bailouts to insurance companies. Not helping families get better options. Democrats have never cared about that. And in fact, when we, as we pointed out multiple times, passed provisions in the working families tax cuts, the cost share reductions, that were scored by CBO to lower premiums by double digits for families. It passed the House, and it was Democrats who worked overtime to get that removed in the Senate. They are still bragging about it today on the Democrat Budget Committee's website, that they removed a provision that would have lowered premiums for families. So who is it that's raising costs for families? Of course, it's been Democrats every step of the way, and the only thing scored by CBO to reduce premiums on families that have passed either house, the Democrats worked overtime to get that removed. The other half of that, he talks about SNAP. And of course, we know there have been votes in the House and Senate to save the SNAP program from cuts, from being zeroed out. It's called the Clean CR. Passed the House with Republican-only votes primarily, with Democrats uniting to try to kill it, but luckily we have the majority in the House, and you go over to the Senate, and we know they have a 60-vote requirement, and Democrats have over and over and over again voted in lockstep with Chuck Schumer to block SNAP benefits. There is a vote you can go look at every day that they've taken that vote that would have opened the government, fully funded SNAP, or shut it down. And it's Republicans who are voting yes, and it's Democrats who are voting no. And Chuck Schumer's been leading that charge. And then he votes no to kill the SNAP program, to create tremendous uncertainty, to create millions of hungry Americans, to use his own word. Chuck Schumer has voted to put those millions of hungry Americans in that situation, and then he walks out to the microphone, as the speaker said, and then he tries to blame it on somebody else. People are sick and tired of it. We're surely sick and tired of it, but the American people are suffering, to use the Democrats' term, while those same Democrats that impose the suffering are going out and trying to mislead and lie to the American people and blame somebody else for the very votes they cast. It is votes in Congress that have caused a government shutdown. That's why we're here. You either vote yes to open the government, or you vote no to keep it shut down. And the votes are public record. And the same people that are voting to shut down the government, to deny food to families, are then walking out and trying to lie to the American people and blame somebody else for their actions. The American people won't have it. The American people will not be lied to. It's time that Chuck Schumer and his Democrat colleagues end this madness. Let's open the government back up again and get to a negotiation on the differences we have. Our whip, Tom Emmer.
Today marks day 34 of the Democrat shutdown. Here are some headlines from over the weekend highlighting the pain the Democrats are inflicting on the American people each day that they prolong this mess. Quote, government workers, SNAP recipients feel the pain as the government shutdown drags on. Quote, staffing shortages mire air travel as shutdown stretches on. Quote, government shutdown threatens to delay home heating aid for millions of low-income families. And that's just to name a few. Democrats have now voted against opening the government 14 times. That's 14 times that they voted against our military. That's 14 times that they have voted against federal law enforcement officers, air traffic controllers, and TSA agents. 14 times they have voted against low-income Americans who rely on programs like SNAP and WIC. Why? Not because they actually care about lowering the cost of health care like they claim. Just look at the 68-page counterproposal they filed in the Senate. Only 1.5 pages reference health care. The other 66 outline their radical policy priorities like billions of dollars for foreign climate projects or $500 million to prop up leftist media outlets. The fact of the matter is that the Democratic Party is not fighting for you, the American public. They've shut the government down to pick a fight with President Trump and to score points with Kami Mandami and Omar Fada, the Omar Fada wing of their party. The Democrats have become kamikaze politicians who are so focused on winning some kind of political game that they've justified blowing up everything in their wake, including the livelihoods of their own constituents. Democrat Senator John Fetterman said it best on CNN yesterday. Quote, we are hurting the very people that we fight for, and now we're getting nothing for them if we continue to keep our government shut down. Quote, this is wrong, he went on to say, and he's exactly right. It's past time for Democrats to end the political games, pass our clean CR, and reopen the government for the people they were elected to serve. Back to the Speaker.
Questions? Manu, you get it first every time. This is not fair.
Last week, you came here to these mics, and you were very critical of Joe Biden's the auto pen, his pardons. You said you didn't even know who he was pardoning. The last night on 60 Minutes, President Trump, admitted not knowing he pardoned a crypto billionaire who pleaded guilty to money laundering. Is that also concerning?
I don't know anything about that. I didn't see the interview. You have to ask the president about that. I'm not sure. Yes, ma'am.
Last week on Friday, you said that if there was any way to fund SNAP, that the Trump administration would be happy to do it. Now, 2 judges have come out saying that it is likely illegal to stop SNAP payments. One is giving the Trump administration until today to make a decision on how to move forward. What have you told President Trump about how you want him to move forward?
Well, he and I talked about this quite a bit over the weekend, multiple times. The president is desperate for SNAP benefits to flow to the American citizens who desperately rely upon it. He has bent over backwards, as you know, to get the troops paid, to keep WIC funding going. He's found creative solutions. The SNAP situation, as Secretary Rollins and I explained at the press conference on Friday, has legal impediments to that. It was understood, and we got legal advice, and it made sense to me that the contingency fund and SNAP could not be used unless the underlying funds were flowing. As Secretary Rollins relayed to you, this is pretty commonsensical. The contingency fund is an extra, in layman's terms, it's an extra fund that is there, for example, if you have an unexpected natural occurrence like a hurricane or something, and SNAP benefits are flowing, but you have a subset of the population that needs additional benefits, then the contingency fund would go. The way we always understood it was the contingency fund could not be used legally if the underlying fund was suspended. And that's what's happened in the CR. The Democrats voted to stop SNAP payments. So you have 2 courts, 2 liberal courts, Obama judges, as I understand it, who said, no, that's not right, get them paid. Well, it's more complicated than that, because as you know, it cost over $9 billion to fund SNAP for a month, and we only have, I think it's $5.2 billion in the contingency fund. So you have a big shortfall. So it's not as easy as hitting go send on a computer. You got to go through and recalculate partial payments to the 42 million recipients of the program. That puts a huge burden on states and on the feds to try to figure that out in short order. So what the president said logically was, okay, Your Honor, if you're saying we can do it, I'll go for that. Because I want SNAP to go to the people. It's the Democrats that stopped it, not us. So tell me how to do it. Because I have all my personnel here in the office, the legal minds and the number crunchers, and they're trying to figure out how this can be done. Give us some guidance. We're glad to do it. So that's where we are at this impasse right now. As you noted, the president's not appealing the decision. He wants SNAP to be done, but he doesn't see the mechanism to do it. So you have Treasury, you have USDA, you have the other agencies involved that are working overtime, literally around the clock over the weekend, trying to figure out how to do this. But everybody needs to know it's not the full amount, assuming they could get this done and processed. The court acknowledged, thanks to the president, for saying that they wanted to do it. Everybody's on the same page here. We just don't know how. It's unprecedented. This has never happened before in this way. And so we're hopeful. But I would just say this, looping us back to how we began, the easiest way to get full SNAP payments to everybody who's eligible is for the Democrats to come in here and vote to reopen the government on a clean, nonpartisan CR. It's a game that's being played and real people are being hurt, and the administration gets all sorts of accolades and appreciation from us for bending over backwards trying to make sure people are not feeling the pain and that the harm is mitigated as much as possible. Yes, sir.
Do you agree with President Trump that now is the time
So I talked to the president multiple times over the weekend, I mentioned, and of course the filibuster came up. This is a Senate matter. It has nothing to do with the House. Everybody wants to know what my opinion is. I mean, my opinion is irrelevant. I understand desperate times call for desperate measures. I also understand that traditionally we've seen that as an important safeguard. I mean, I obviously shared my thoughts with the president on that. As much as I have wanted to blow up the filibuster sometime as a House member when we were not getting what we wanted done in our agenda, I hear my Senate Republican colleagues, some of the most conservative people in Congress, who say it's an important safeguard. It prevents us. It holds us back from the Democrats' worst impulses. What would the Democrats do if they had no filibuster impediment, no speed bump at all? They've already told us. They would pack the Supreme Court. You'd go from 9 to 13 or 15 or 17 or however many liberals they can pack on the court. You would have D.C. and Puerto Rico be made into states, which would give 4 additional Democrat senators there in the count and make us a permanent minority. I guess that would be their calculation. You would see massive restriction of the Second Amendment rights. You'd see them federalize elections so they could take over and manipulate things in the red states. I mean, there's a lot of abuses that could come. And so that's the caveat. That's what they're working through. And I speak frankly and honestly with the president, and he's very passionate about this. We're all very passionate. I think what you see in this debate we're having on our own side is a reflection of the anger that we feel, the real desperation that we feel, because we want the government to be reopened. We want to serve the American people as best we can, and any hindrance to that is something that everybody's looking at very carefully. Again, not a House issue, it's a Senate issue, and we'll see how that's resolved. Chad. We're very mindful of the calendar. We're very frustrated by that. It's part of the reason we're so angry about this, because they're eating up the clock, and the Democrats know how much more we have to do here this year. But we cannot do it if the government's not opened and not serving the people. And so this is a very important matter. It's something that we're giving all of our attention to. Our leaders will go and meet on the calendar right now. We watch it every day. But the simplest way to get all these issues resolved, health care, everything else, to get it all finished up for the year, is for them to reopen the government and make sure people are not hurting instead of Democrats over here playing political games to cover their own backside. I hope the election tomorrow is a change, a sea change in all this. I hope that after everybody votes and they go in their room and they make the calculation that, well, maybe we won't have to hold that line anymore. Maybe they won't punish us. Maybe it won't affect turnout in our states in these elections. Maybe after tomorrow, they'll come to their common senses again and do the right thing. We certainly pray that is true. And Republicans will be on the job every single day, serving our constituents, helping guide them through the chaos that the Democrat shutdown has created, and praying they do the right thing and stop making the American people suffer because of this nonsense. Thank you.
Déclaration président Chambre basse là, M. Mike Johnson avec comité qui avait le cap gérer pouvoir au niveau Chambre député yo. Président Chambre basse là, li énuméré ensemble de points qui fait que yo peur pour yo capable adopter décision nucléaire chef l'État américain Donald Trump li mandé. Li peur pour démocrates yo pas arriver mettre plus moun qui sympathiser avec eux au niveau la Cour suprême, même gens que Mitch McConnell te fait, il était censé accaparer et poste pour te permettre à parti majoritaire, parti républicain, alors il veut gagner majorité au niveau la Cour suprême. Président Chambasta dit, il peut aussi pour que les démocrates pas arriver à contrôler l'appareil électoral là. Il peut pour pas arriver à prendre décision pour réduire façon que moun a circulé ou bien moun acheter des armes ici aux États-Unis d'Amérique. Président Chambasta dit, il peut pour que yo pas trouver yo dans une position minoritaire de manière permanente si yo ta prendre décision adopter mesures nucléaires là, pour permettre Sénat li voter seulement pour capable débloquer gouvernement. Et là, yo pas sous pouvoir, les démocrates gagnent pouvoir, les ça moun pas connaît qui des gars qui yo capable faire selon Mike Johnson, président Chambre député. Jeudi a, ces dernières lignes droites avant organisation élection yo, autant de le dit, l'État souhaité que parti démocrate là joigne un résultat qui contraire à aspiration yo, à savoir perdu élection qui vitale pour yo, tant que Virginia pour poste gouverneur, New Jersey ensemble avec California, côté que yo mettez dans vote là décision qui concernait redistricting l'État de Californie. Et si vous permettez ça fait, eh bien, le gouverneur Newsom lui-même, il peut permettre que les démocrates yo récupérer quelques sièges que les républicains censés gagner. Même gens républicains fait dans la côte Texas, ils fait dans Mississippi, ils fait dans la côte North Carolina et gagner en dehors de North Carolina qui ont annoncé. Et l'autre côté encore républicains compté faire redistribution sièges parlementaires pour que yo capable kembe majorité nan meyo à partir de élection moitié mandat qui pral organiser là. Président Chambasta traité de communiste, de marxiste, candidat démocrate pour poste magistrat dans la Cour New York, Zoran Mamdani. Pourtant, Stewart Curtis, qui c'est candidat républicain, monsieur décidé li pape quitter Kousla au profit de Cuomo, Jean que chef l'État américain Limandil. Je voulais faire le point pour suivre Pstars FM radio et télévision. On a plus pour nous dire plus tard concernant de ces gouvernements shutdown ça avec programme healthcare ou bien Obamacare. On connaît plus. On choisit Pstars radio et télévision. Faites brancher.